Welcome to the Blowing Rock Core podcast, where we focus on local leaders building community through community-centered philanthropy, leadership development, and networking opportunities. This podcast series is brought to you by Granite Insurance. Granite Insurance has been an independent insurance agency since 1936 and is serving clients in all 50 states. Their primary goal is to empower their clients to be successful. Visit graniteinsurance.com to learn more.
Welcome to the Blowing Rock Core Local Leaders Interview Series podcast. Blowing Rock Core is a young professionals organization in affiliation with the Blowing Rock Chamber of Commerce. Our focus is on local leaders building community through leadership development, community-centered philanthropy, and networking opportunities. I'm your host, PJ Hennessy. On this podcast, we will sit down with the leaders of organizations throughout the high country that are setting the standard in what it means to be a leader and give their testimony on how they got to the position they are in today and what they are doing to take their leadership and organization to the next level. For our very first core podcast, we are honored to have an individual that epitomizes everything that it means when we think of a good leader. She is the executive director of the Western Youth Network, including the upcoming annual fundraiser, the Festival of Trees. Jennifer Warren, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. So to get started with all of our guests, one question I always want to start by asking is always, everyone has a unique answer for it. When you kind of step back in time and think back to your childhood, is what did you want to be when you were growing up?
To be a teacher. And so it's really cool to see that I am still within that realm of working with kids, but it just manifested a little bit differently than I expected it to. So, I don't know if I'm necessarily the person who has the skills for that job these days. That is a hard job. But yeah, that's like the only thing I can remember wanting to be growing up was a teacher. So I got close.
That's awesome. Well, I remember a lot of teachers in this community had a huge impact on me growing up, and it's never something I thought I could handle, being either K through 12, any of that range of children. I could see myself being a college professor down the road, perhaps, but anything under the age of 18, I don't know if I had the patience for it. And of course, growing up for me, I wanted to be a professional athlete, but when I stopped at 5'8", I realized that those dreams were not going to be a reality. But I'm very blessed to be in the position I'm in and have the chance to stay in our local community and talk to individuals such as yourself. So just want to kind of start off, Jennifer, with if you could take a few minutes and just kind of give me your story, just kind of paint that picture of how you got to where you are today and where you've been the last 5, 10, 15 years.
It's certainly been a meandering path, even though I've been with Western Youth Network for 20 years, I finally kind of found my place. Getting there was a little bit of an interesting journey. And so, I mentioned that I wanted to be a teacher, but then after that, when I realized I didn't want to be, I didn't know what else I wanted to do. So I knew that I was good at English. I knew that I was good at writing. So when I went to undergrad at Pfeiffer, I just was on the 4-year plan. And I'm like, all right, what's going to get me out of here on time? What do I have the most credits in? And of course that was English, because those are my favorite classes. So I just went ahead and pursued an English degree, and I got asked 500 times a minute, what are you going to do with that? And so finally I just kind of started saying anything I want. So I don't think people really know what box to put you in when you have a humanities degree like that. But when I added on an organizational communications minor, that really started to shape things up for me. And so I had a professor who was amazing, and she helped us do all of these career assessments. And so one after the other, they all kept coming back very similar, that I should either be like at a YMCA or a counseling position or a nonprofit of some sort. And I think I was still questioning it until she finally said, Jennifer, if they're all coming back the same, maybe you should pay attention to that. And so I did get a job at a nonprofit agency straight out of college, and it was a housing and self-sufficiency agency. And so we help people save their money to become homeowners, and then also clean up their credit. And a component of that was also working with the children so that they could also pick up on these good financial literacy skills at a younger age, and then possibly move on to homeownership more quickly than their parents did. And so in working with kids, I realized that was just something that I really loved doing. And I was in Lexington, North Carolina at that time. but I really did love Boone. And I had almost come to Appalachian, but didn't make it here. And so
Right.
I was looking for jobs in Boone, just really looking to move to Boone. And I had
Mm-hmm.
seen an article about WYN, and we were known as Watauga Youth Network at that time. So I'd
Mm-hmm.
seen an article about WYN in the newspaper, and I just thought, that place looks really cool. I'm just going to randomly send in my resume.
Right.
And of course, that didn't produce anything. But sometime thereafter, they did have a job opening, and I applied for that job in our after school program. And I went through like a first interview and a second interview and was not offered the position, but they did
Okay.
say, we have something else coming up later, if you want to be considered for that. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was really difficult for me to suck up my pride and just be like, "Ugh,
Right.
you didn't think I was good enough the first time around, but okay, I'll try again." But
Yeah.
I did do that. Thankfully, I did do that. And so
Right.
I also went to a first interview and a second interview with another after school position, and I also did not get that job.
Right.
But the executive director called me at some point a couple months down the road and said, I have this other position that's opened up. I
Mm-hmm.
think that, that's kind of where I saw you this whole time. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it'd be a great fit for you. If you want to come by and talk to me about it, go ahead and do
Right.
that. And so
Right.
I did. And that was in 2002. And I started out as the director of our mentoring program and then moved into the role of executive director in 2006.
Okay.
So, yeah, I never would have seen myself in a position of leadership that soon, but
Right.
the opportunity presented itself and I
Mm-hmm.
was the woman for the job. And for a long time, I really just kind of kept thinking, like, I'm only the person who's here holding down the fort until the
Right.
real executive director comes along.
Right.
And then I guess at some point, years into the job, I finally just thought, I guess I'm that person.
Yeah.
So I might as well live into that role.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. So, kind of two things stood out to me there is one, a lot of people don't stay in that position that long, especially in today's day and age. So that's a huge testament to you and your belief in the organization and this community. It's somewhere you didn't call home and just kind of said, hey, Boone's a cool place, Boiling Rock's a cool place, and let's give it a go. And then obviously also, at first wasn't really, you weren't sure if that was the right path for you. But just that willingness to stick with it and see the opportunity through to where you are today really stands out to me. Awesome. So looking at Western Youth Network and what you guys do, like for me growing up, before I had the opportunity to talk with you in person and learn more about Western Youth Network, but it's always been that name recognition in our community. I think everyone knows what it is, but maybe not necessarily what it does. For me growing up in elementary school and high school, it was, I heard some classmates, that were involved, but was just kind of, oh, they're going and doing cool stuff. But other than that, yeah, that's good for them. I was kind of jealous, honestly, but beyond that, wasn't really sure exactly what it was. So, if you could just kind of take a few minutes and give a little bit more detail on what you guys offer to our community.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like WYN for the longest time was a very well kept secret. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that we just weren't very good at being out and about in the community until maybe, 08, 09. And so we finally got serious about our brand and our recognition at that point in time. And so hopefully we're becoming more well known. And yeah, because we are going to be, 40 years old as an agency before too much longer. And so we definitely have been around a long time in the high country. And we really serve the role of a boys and girls club and a big brother, big sister entity here in the high country. And so I feel like that's kind of like the quickest way to say what we do because people are usually more familiar with those associated brands. But we do provide after school programming for students in Watauga County and Ashe County and Allegheny counties. So we have that kind of three county service area for our after school program. And this really is more than just your typical hangout after school kind of program. We make it very purposeful. And so we really want to integrate in a lot of things that build resilience and help heal students. So what we know is that the vast majority of Americans, at least 60% of us have experienced at least one of what they call an ACE, adverse childhood experience. And so there are 10 of these identified adversities, and most of us have experienced at least one. And I would say, at least 25 to 30% have experienced four or more. And so that's really the threshold at which if somebody somebody doesn't intervene, our bodies and brains are going to start to notice that wear and tear. And
Okay.
so, WYN's programming is really designed to intervene in such a way that we can bring neurological systems back down into balance, and we can help students be able to get their brains back online out of survival mode and really into the mode where they can learn and grow and connect with people. So
Right.
some of those things that we offer are nutrition programs. We cook with the students. We have healthy
Mm,
snacks. We can send food home with them on the weekends sometimes. So nutrition is a key component.
mhm.
Physical activity is another big thing. So,
Okay.
I think a lot of us can relate to the fact when we're feeling stressed, we might want to
Mhm.
just go for a walk, go for a run, do something like that. And so we definitely keep our kids physically active, since
Right.
that's another key component to well-being. Also, we have tried some mindfulness activities in the past.
Mhm.
Those go over with mixed reviews sometimes amongst our children, but
Right.
anything that we can do to kind of give people a safe and quiet space is also helpful. And then access to nature is another one of those identified healers. And
Oh,
so, particularly within our summer camp, we get kids
right.
out and we stay outside. We're on all sorts of adventures. So,
Mhm.
if you can just imagine that during that like 2:30 to 6 o'clock window after school,
Sure.
you're with adults who care about you. We help you with
Mhm.
your homework. We get you engaged in a variety of activities that are going to enhance your well-being.
Mhm.
And then in the summertime, we just take kids on lots of adventures.
Wow.
So that's kind of one component of what we do. And then the other component that's also been shown to really build a lot of resilience in youth and build a lot of hope in youth
Mhm.
is the presence of a stable, nurturing caregiver. And so ideally, that caregiver is in your home, and
Mhm.
maybe they are and maybe they're not. But
Yeah.
regardless, WYN is going to be able to provide kids with mentors. So we have a volunteer mentoring program, both school-based and community-based.
Okay.
And, giving kids somebody to talk to and somebody to hang out with who's not a
Mhm.
peer and they're not a teacher and they're not a parent
Mhm.
means a whole lot.
Okay.
I think we can all look back to people who played that role in our lives and how
Right.
instrumental they were at that point in
Mhm.
time.
Yep.
And so the last thing that we do is a community health component. So what we
Okay.
recognize is that our kids can only be as healthy as their environments allow them to be. And
Mhm.
so we can do all the work that we want to do all day long for
Right.
that one-on-one kind of
Mhm.
intervention. But if they're going back to an environment, whatever that environment might look like,
Right.
homeschool community that's not as healthy as it can be, then our outcomes are going to be diminished. And so
Sure.
our community health program really starts looking at some of those policy related changes, high level environmental changes that we can enact so that
Okay.
kids really have the best chance at success in life.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, and I think back to my childhood and my, high school days, and think about all of the people that were kind of, beyond my parents that were mentors to me and helped provide me with experiences and memories, and that sense of security as well. And I know that so many people around the world and even in our community lack that. So for you guys to be able to step in and provide that is something I hope everyone can get a grasp on and understand a little bit better. And as people listening to this hear your story as not only becoming a leader, but what WYN offers to our community, and now they hopefully are asking themselves, I know I am, even more so than our organization already does, is how can we get involved to further your mission? What are you guys lacking? How can we help? I know you have the two main fundraisers throughout the year, the gala in the late spring, summertime. And of course, right now, kicking off, I believe on the 16th was Festival of Trees, which is running now through the 1st. Just talk a little bit more about those two main drivers for funding for you guys.
Sure, sure. Yeah, happy to do that. And then I'll also just kind of mention, lots of volunteer opportunities just depending on whatever your interest area might be. And
Hmm.
so, some people like to be directly working with children, and if so, they can be a lunch buddy, eat lunch with a student once a week. They can be a community-based volunteer. They can be a tutor. You can help plan those special events that you mentioned. So
Hmm.
there's a variety of ways to get involved. And then, for some people, they just think like, I honestly don't have the time right now now, but I might be
Mm-hmm.
able to support your mission financially. And so that's really where those events come in that you mentioned. And so we are going to have our annual gala. That's an invitation only gala coming up on June 2nd of 2023. So we can provide more information about that later. And then, yeah, here and just like actually it's underway right now. Our Festival of Trees event just opened up, and we are very excited to have everybody check out our online auction. This is such a cool event that got started a number of years ago, I think about 8 years ago. And, it's expanded to where we have trees that are actually around at various community locations in Ashe, Avery, and Watauga counties. So you might pop into a business and see a tree there and see that it's actually up for auction. And so businesses and individuals have donated the trees and the associated gifts with those trees, so that any bid that you make on that tree, all the proceeds come back to the programs of Western Youth Network. That will run through December 1st. And so we are really excited to have people check those out and see if they want to place a bid. But then there's also a couple of really cool events that we would love for people to attend. So there is a hot chocolate social coming up at the Watauga Rec Center. That's going to be on Wednesday, the 28th. Check that date.
Sounds right.
And so, yeah, that will be from that'll be the 30th, so Wednesday the 30th. So we will actually be at the rec center that afternoon, and you can come and see all the wreaths that are on display. You can see some trees that are on display. Really love to have people join us for that open event. And then we're going to close out the event that evening at Ransom. So on December 1st, we're going to be having a really fun evening where people can come and they can wear a holiday sweater. Some people would call it an ugly sweater. And then they can also sing a little bit of Christmas song karaoke and just really celebrate the end of that event with us. And so
good. Very good. Well, I know that the rec center is a short walk from my office here in Boone, so I will most certainly take the stroll over, grab some hot cocoa, and see everything. And I know I'm also going to be in attendance for the spirit breakfast that you guys are having that morning at Chatola, and hopefully I'll have enough energy left to join you guys at Ransom that evening as well. Hopefully we don't, you guys are probably going to pack Ransom out. I was thinking all the people that are involved in this festival, that's going to be a packed house that evening. So hopefully we can get some more people listening to this and to join in on the events, because it's truly such a unique part of the time of the year and such a unique fundraiser. For me, it was always, I heard about Festival of Trees. It's beautiful trees. Everyone's always talking about it, but I didn't have that full grasp on what it is. But for you guys to have so many members of the community involved is just a huge part of what we are as a community in Boone, what WYN is, and really sets off and launches the giving season that we are in this time of year with Thanksgiving and Christmas. So kind of to bring everything full circle in this conversation, Jennifer, looking back on first to when you were just your leadership journey and where you are today, for the young folks like myself or anyone else in the community that is kind of at that point where you were, where you didn't think you were ready to be executive director yet, but you were thrown into that position, or you want to get there but you're not quite there yet. What is one thing you would tell our listeners or those people in the communities that you would have done differently or wish you had known back at that point?
Yeah. I think that the primary thing is that I wish I would have just trusted myself more. I think that it's hard to have confidence. I feel like when you're trying to get a job, they always say, what's your experience? And if you can't get a job without experience, it's like this chicken and egg thing. And I feel like it's similar with a leadership role. I'm not sure that you can actually gain confidence in yourself without experiencing the leadership role first and then learning to do that. But, I really do wish that I would have trusted myself more. Like, so many times in my gut, I feel like I knew the right answer, but there would be somebody who was older or somebody who was bolder, or, somebody whose voice I trusted more than my own. And, I finally started realizing, like, I have worth and I have value and I have skills and I am uniquely qualified for this position, and I can trust that and I can own that. And, and at the same time, recognize that I don't have to know everything. That was one big thing that I also felt when I was becoming becoming executive director, it's like all of a sudden I was just like, I have to know everything about everything now.
Right.
And that wasn't true at all. I just had to surround myself with people who did know. And that's still true today, even so many years later, like going on 17 years of being the leader there. I still have decisions right now that I can't make by myself. I'm still like working collaboratively and trusting other people. And so it's kind of this back and forth between trusting myself and my wisdom and having confidence in my leadership, and also recognizing that I don't have to make those decisions alone, and I can surround myself with a lot of people who know a lot of things. And that's a really comforting feeling to know that we're all kind of carrying this together and I'm not alone.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And that's I think everyone learns that lesson every day, no matter if you've been doing it for 17 years or 17, days.
Yeah.
You always have that idea of, I've got to do it on my own, but not everyone can do that, whether it's a nonprofit, an insurance agency, or, a massive company. You have to rely on a good team and a good culture. So
Sure.
just want to kind of wrap up and end with this. One last question is the people that are listening to this podcast today, if you could ask them to take one action item back with them and kind of put that as a focus and carry that out. It can be WYN related, community related, anything. In your mind, what would you ask?
Just them to notice people, and to not be afraid to reach out, because I feel like that's what I spend a lot of time, what WYN spends a lot of time doing with children, is just reminding them that they are seen and noticed and cared for. And adults are really just grown up children, and
Right.
we all still need that. And I feel like, really, it sounds so cliche, but the world needs more love, and I feel like we'd all be a lot more loving if we felt a lot more loved. And so just once again, going back, like, our high country community really excels at that more than any other community I've seen. But, just a reminder that sometimes if you see that random person that looks like they're struggling, maybe it's okay to reach out. And, if you think about your school systems, I know I have a kindergartner now, and I just think about, what if you offered to, help cover lunch money for somebody, or, what if you were a school-based lunch buddy, or, just in what ways can we really uplift children and, people, in whatever way we can, because, truly, I think if we just notice more and reach out more, it's going to impact everybody, and we're going to feel the effects of that.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me this afternoon and share your leadership journey, as well as giving our listeners an in-depth look at what WYN does, especially the Festival of Trees that we're in right now. So if you're listening to this, you haven't experienced the Festival of Trees, go do it. Go take the tour across our community. Walk into pretty much any business right now, you're going to see a tree. Come to the rec center on the 28th, come to Ransom on the 1st, and just see what WYN's all about, and get yourself in the giving spirit this holiday season. This has been the inaugural Core Podcast. Thank you to our producer, Chris Faber, and our sponsors, the Blowing Rock Chamber of Commerce and Granite Insurance. This is PJ Hennessy, and I will talk to you guys again soon. Thank you.